Good morning all. Let us begin our chapter, Democratic Rights. Rights in a democracy. Think of all the examples that we have discussed so far. Think of the victims in each example. The prisoners in Guantanamo Bay, women in Saudi Arabia, Albanians in Kosovo. If you were in their position, what would you have wished? If you could, what would you do to ensure that such things do not happen to anyone? You would perhaps desire a system where security, dignity, and fair play are assured to everyone. You might want, for example, that no one should be arrested without proper reason and information. And if someone is arrested, he or she should have a fair chance to defend themselves. You might agree that such assurance cannot apply to everything. One has to be reasonable in what one and demands of everyone else. For one has to grant the same to everyone. But you might insist that the assurance does not remain on paper. There is someone to enforce these assurances, that those who violate these are punished. In other words, you might want a system where at least a minimum is guaranteed to everyone, powerful or weak, rich or poor, majority or minority. This is the spirit behind thinking about rights. So what are rights? According to explanation, rights are claims of a person over other fellow beings, over the society, and over the government. Gradually, we will understand this. If we have to understand what are rights, we need to go word by word of the definition. A right is possible when you make a claim that is equally possible for others. All of us want to live happily, without fear and without being subjected to degraded treatment. For this, we expect others to behave in such a way that does not harm us or hurt us. Equally, our actions should not also harm or hurt others. You cannot have a right that harms or hurts others. You cannot have a right to play a game in such a way that it breaks the neighbor's window. The Serbs in Yugoslavia could not have claimed the whole country for themselves. The claims we make should be reasonable. They should be such that can be made available to others in an equal measure. Thus, a right comes with an obligation to respect other rights. Just because we claim something, it does not become our right. It has to be recognized by the society we live in. How it will be done? Rights acquire meaning only in society. Every society makes certain rules to regulate our conduct. They tell us what is right and what is wrong. What is recognized by the society as rightful becomes the basis of rights. That is why the notion of rights changes from time to time and society to society. For example, 200 years ago, anyone who said that women should have right to vote would have sounded strange. Today, not granting them vote in Saudi Arabia appears strange. When the socially recognized claims are written into law, they acquire real force. Otherwise, they remain merely as natural or moral rights. The prisoners in Guantanamo Bay had a moral claim not to be tortured or humiliated, but they could not go to anyone to enforce this claim. When law recognizes some claims, they become enforceable. We can then demand their application. When fellow citizens or the government do not respect these rights, we call it violation or infringement of our rights. In such circumstances, citizens can approach courts to protect their rights. So, if we want to call any claim a right, it has to have these three qualities. Rights are reasonable claims of persons, recognized by society, and sanctioned by law. These three qualities should be there for having rights in the democratic country. Why do we need rights in a democracy? Rights are necessary for the very sustenance of a democracy. In a democracy, every citizen has to have the right to vote and the right to be elected to government. For democratic elections to take place, it is necessary that citizens should have the right to express their opinion, form political parties, and take part in political activities. Role of rights in a democracy. Rights protect minorities from the oppression of majority. They ensure that the majority cannot do whatever it likes. Rights are guarantees which can be used when things go wrong. Things may go wrong when some citizens may wish to take away the rights of others. This usually happens when those in majority want to dominate those in minority. The government should protect the citizens' rights in such a situation, but sometimes elected governments may not protect or may even attack the rights of their own citizens. That is why some rights need to be placed higher than the government, so that the government cannot violate them. In most democracies, the basic rights of the citizens are written down in the constitution, so any government cannot violate the fundamental rights of the citizens of that country. Rights in the Indian Constitution. In India, like most other democracies in the world, these rights are mentioned in the Constitution. Some rights which are fundamental to our life are given a special status. They are called fundamental rights. We have already learned our 6 fundamental rights in our previous classes. It talks about securing for all its citizens equality, liberty, and justice. Fundamental rights put this promise into effect. They are an important basic feature of India's constitution. You already know our constitution provides for 6 fundamental rights. What exactly do these rights mean for an ordinary citizen? Let us look at these one by one. Right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, rights to constitutional remedies. But today we are going to talk about first right, that is right to equality. The Constitution says that the government shall not deny to any person in India equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws. It means that the laws apply in the same manner to all, regardless of a person's status. This is called the rule of law. Rule of law is the foundation of any democracy. It means that no person is above the law. There cannot be any distinction between a political leader, government official, and an ordinary citizen. Every citizen, from the Prime Minister to a small farmer in a remote village, is subjected to the same laws. No person can legally claim any special treatment or privilege just because he or she happens to be an important person. For example, a few years ago, a former Prime Minister of the country faced a court case on charges of cheating. The court finally declared that he was not guilty. But as long as the case continued, he had to go to the court, give evidence, and file papers, just like any other citizen. This basic position is further clarified in the Constitution by spelling out some implications of the right to equality. The government shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. Every citizen shall have access to public places like shops, restaurants, hotels, and cinema halls. Similarly, there shall be no restriction with regard to the use of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, playgrounds, and places of public resort maintained by government or dedicated to the use of general public. This might appear very obvious, but it was necessary to incorporate these rights in the Constitution of our country, where the traditional caste system did not allow people from some communities to access all public places. Dear students, one of the important aspects of online learning is self-assessment. What you have learned. I'm sending you 3 questions. You need to find the answers of these 3 questions, and you all will be writing it in your rough notebook. Later, I will be giving you the correct answers for these questions, and that time you will write those question answers in your classwork notebook. For today, till here only we will be doing. Thank you very much.
Textbook pages for your reading.